I think we talked about the flying snakes of Malaysia, so we did talk about that. Yep.
Right.
That was very interesting. I wasn't aware that we had some like you said, they fall slower than others.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see here. This comes from Rick. Let's go back to Rick because Rick's sending a lot of good questions, Pastor Hovind. He talks about Luke 21:20 through 24, and I think a lot of his questions deal with the end times. But in Luke 21:20 through 24, it says, But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter her, for these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days, for there will be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people, and they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Pastor Hovind, I'm praying for your soon freedom. My question is, and this comes from Rick. Rick says, what are the times of the Gentiles?
Okay. If you can draw a line 12 inches long or 11 and a half on a piece of paper, I'll show you, reconstruct mentally what my chart is. So tell your folks that are listening, just get a ruler and draw a line 11 inches long or however long their paper is, okay? If they go diagonally on the paper, they can get 12 inches. On the far left, make a little mark and call that 4A. Come over to the 3.5 inch mark and call that 4C. Come over to the 7-inch mark and call that 4E, letter E like Edward. Then come over to the 10-inch mark.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
5C, letter C like Charlie. So once again, you got a line. At the far left is 4A, and then come over to the 3.5-inch mark, and that's 4C. Go over to the 7-inch mark, that's 4E, and over to the 10-inch mark, and that's 5C. Continue the line to the right, and just put an arrow on there, and write the number 83 feet. In order for this chart to really work, it would have to be 83 feet longer, but we're going to shorten that up because I don't want a piece of paper that long to haul around, okay?
All right.
Let me call back and explain what each of those points are in this. Right?
Okay, very good. Thank you, Pastor Hovind. All right, guys. I need more Bible questions, folks. ruddavis@yahoo.com. Send me more Bible questions, Bible evolution, creation questions, and you can give me a call too, 972-839-9848.
Hotel link, prepaid call from
Ken Hovind.
an inmate at the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $105.54. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8 now. To accept this call, this call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
All right, brother, let me explain what this chart is. In my book that I wrote for my dissertation after I had to switch to be post-trib, pre-wrath, took me 40 years to see that truth. I'm sorry I'm a little slow, but I did get it. Finally got it. The church has always taught for 2,000 years, we will be here for the tribulation. And 1830, a Scottish girl had a dream, 15-year-old girl had a fever and had a dream while she was sick and said, oh no, we get raptured out before the tribulation. And that led to the great pre-trib rapture teaching that's gone on with the Left Behind series, and all kinds of people have jumped on the pre-trib bandwagon. Darby kind of was one of the first ones back in 1830 or so. It's amazing how far it's spread. But even to this day, the pre-trib rapture is the minority teaching among Christians worldwide. It is a very vocal minority, and there's the Tim LaHaye books are 70 million they've sold or something. Or I wish it was true. Let's go Field Bible teaches it. All kinds of, major Bible teachers push the pre-trib rapture idea. And like I said, I taught it myself. I believed it myself for 40 years. It's just not true. 4a on your chart, you can write underneath there, Daniel 9:27, a treaty is made. That's the beginning of a 7-year period. So going from 4a over to 4e, you can make a little archway over the top and put 7 years. This is the 7 years, the 1 week, the 70th week of Daniel. And all this is in my book that I wrote, What on Earth is About to Happen, for heaven's sake. It's on lulu.com. That 7-year period is divided equally into 2 halves. The first half you can put on the line, not on the hash mark, just anywhere between those 2 hash marks, put 4b. 4b is the first 3.5 years, and that's when people begin to fall away from the Lord. There's a great falling away. People quit serving the Lord. Jesus said something, to me, kind of scary in Luke chapter 18, if you back up just a little bit. Luke 18, he's talking about the unjust judge. I guess they had him back then, too. But in Luke chapter 18, talking about this judge, you look down at verse number 8. I tell you, he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? Question mark. I don't know if that has anything to do with the unjust judge story above, but it's an interesting phrase by itself. When Jesus comes back, is there going to be anybody left serving him? And he leaves it with a question, never answers it. There's a lot of Jesus questions all through the Gospels are never answered, which makes me...
This call is from the San Jose County Sheriff's Office.
I'm going to write a book one of these days, Unanswered Questions, because I don't know. Is he going to find faith on the earth? But anyway, 4b on this chart is the first 3.5 years when there's a great falling away. 4c would be the middle of the 7 years, and you can write under there, he breaks the treaty. Because it says back in Daniel chapter 9, he's going to make a treaty for 1 week. And then he's going to break the treaty in the midst of the week. That would be 3.5 years. And he's going to set up an image in the temple. Well, he can't set up an image in the temple. There is no temple. So I have written under 4b, the temple is built. The Jews are going to rebuild their temple in Jerusalem. Because you can't set up an image in the temple that doesn't exist. So my best guess is that happens during that first 3.5 years, and they can easily build it in less time than that. The middle of that time, 4c, is when he breaks the treaty, sets up an image, and the Jews finally realize, wow, this isn't the Messiah we thought he was. So now if you go back to Luke chapter 21, where we started off, you'll see where this breaking of the treaty and setting up the image is called the abomination of desolation. And you see that there's 3 passages in the Gospels that talk about this time. The disciples asked him, Lord, when are you coming and what's the sign? It's in every one, Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. They asked him the question, Lord, when are you coming and what's the sign? Well, the sign is the sun and the moon going dark, which we see at the end. But the when are you coming, he answers their question very clearly. He said, I want you to watch for the abomination that maketh desolate. That's when the Antichrist sets up the temple, sets up his image in the temple. The passage is more clear if you go back to Matthew 24. I've got them in my book marked where they all correspond, but go back to Matthew 24 where it's the same scenario, disciples asking the same question. In Matthew 24, in verse number, abomination of desolation. Verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. So, verse 15, you can put Matthew 24:15 right under 4c. This is the abomination of desolation, stand in the holy place. And it says, then shall be great, verse 21, for then shall be great tribulation. So after 4c would come 4d, that's the line, the 3.5 year line. So just write a 4d on there. That's the period of great tribulation. The great tribulation lasts for 3.5 years. That's it's only twice in the Bible, I believe, uses that phrase, great tribulation, and here's one of them. Then you keep reading, and it talks about all the things that happen, down to verse 29, and it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. So 4E is when the sun and the moon go dark, and then that is the rapture. So I have an arrow going straight up to the word rapture. That's where the Christians are caught out, at 4E. So we are caught up out of here. The rapture takes place, and you can read that in Matthew 24, 29, 30, 31, where he sends angels with the trumpet, and they gather together his elect. Same thing in Mark 13 and Luke 21. So the next thing that happens after, now Christians are gone. So that time from 4A, B, C, D, and E is often called the 7-year tribulation. After that, from 4E over to 5C, this 3-inch line, that is the time of wrath. Just write the word wrath in there, W-R-A-T-H. We are not appointed unto wrath. We are here for the tribulation. And you see that very clearly. If you go to 2 Thessalonians in the Bible, every chapter in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians talks about the coming of the Lord. But 2nd Thessalonians talks about the day of Christ. Actually, there are 7 references to that phrase.
Whoops, sorry.
And that is 4E. Right up near the word rapture, just write the word day of Christ. The day of Christ is the rapture. That's when we are caught away. And in 2 Thessalonians 2, he said, that day, talking about the day of Christ, from 2 Thessalonians 2:2, and verse 1 talks about the Lord coming and gathering together his elect. That day cannot come, he says, in verse 3. That day cannot come, except there come a falling away, and the man...
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
The son of perdition. Well, the man of sin being revealed is what happened back in 4C. That's when he broke the treaty and revealed, hey, this is really the Antichrist. That's when the Jews figure out, wow, don't follow this guy. He's the wrong one. Up until that time, they probably thought he was a good guy, maybe even their Messiah. He lets them rebuild their temple. I don't know how that's going to work out, but they realize, wow, he's not it. The Jews begin to get persecuted right then at 4C, and they have to run and hide. It's a time of tribulation. But the Christians are also here. The Jews are not saved. The unsaved Jews are being persecuted during this time, and the saved Christians. We are caught out of here. And God, in his great love, does not want the world ever left without a witness. So the very next thing that happens after 4E on the chart would be 5A. We now enter a whole new period. Christians are gone, but God still wants his people. He still wants people saved. So at 5A, you can put the 144,000 witnesses are chosen and sealed, and that comes in Revelation chapter 7. If you look at Revelation chapter 6, you can see the sun and the moon going dark at the end, near the end of chapter 6. And then the next event that happens, that's Revelation 6:12. The sun and the moon go dark. So that's the rapture. And then starts verse 16. It's the first mention of the word wrath. And again in verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come. I was guilty for years of confusing tribulation with wrath. They are not the same. Tribulation is what the world does to us. We're going to be here for that. Jesus said we would in John 16. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. But we are not appointed unto wrath. You see that in 1 Thessalonians 1:10 and 1 Thessalonians 5:9. We don't experience the wrath of God. We do experience the tribulation. So the time of wrath is this next, it's almost 3 years, a little less, but go ahead and mark it at the 10-inch mark. It's 1,040 days. Now that number is arrived at, if you want to go back to 4C and make an arch underneath the chart or over, however you want to do it, make an archway over to 5C. From 4C to 5C. And right above there, 2,300 days. That's from Daniel chapter 8, where he said the temple is going to be desolate for 2,300 days. Well, half of 7 years is 1,260 days. 2,300 days is more than that by 1,040, which is a little less than 3 years. So this period of time from the rapture until 5C is about 1,040 days. That's the time of wrath. That's the time when the 7 trumpet judgments in Revelation take place, and the 7 vials are poured out upon the earth, and all kinds of bad things happen on planet Earth. The Christians are not here for that, but the lost people are. We are here for the first 5 seals that are broken in Revelation chapter 6. But we're raptured out at 5C. And once you get my charts from Randall or off of Lulu, Rudy, they're much more colorful and got tons of details in there. So 5A is the sealing of the 144,000 Jews. And then 5B would be the line in between those two, that 1,040-day period. That's the time of wrath. So 5C, several things happen. I've got an arrow coming down from above. That's the return of Christ. Jesus comes twice. He comes first to get his saints. He comes and gathers them up into the clouds. The second time, he comes all the way down and touches the Mount of Olives. There are 2 parts to his coming. The first, Advent, they call it, is just to gather up his church. He does not touch down on earth. We are up in heaven during that 1,040 days at the marriage feast of the Lamb. First, there's the judgment seat of Christ, which is not the final judgment, but only Christians are judged. And then the marriage of the Lamb. And then we all return with him on white horses at 5C for what is called the Battle of Armageddon. So you could write 5C, Return of Christ, and then the Battle of Armageddon takes place. After that battle, Satan is cast into the pit. And 5D, letter D, after C, would be 83 feet long, representing the 1,000 years. That'd be 1,000 inches divided by 12, so 83 feet long. That is the day of the Lord. That's peace on earth, goodwill toward men, wonderful the lion laying down with the lamb, and all the good things you read about the day of the Lord, mentioned hundreds of times throughout the Bible, mostly in the prophets and minor prophets. But the day of the Lord is the 1,000-year period. So label that 5D, like David. 5D is 1,000 years long. At the very end of that, if you want to walk over to your neighbor's house 83 feet away, put a dot or just put a little indication on your map that 83 feet's been removed, and you call it 5E, the letter E like Edward. 5E like Edward. This is where the Satan is loosed, because it says in Revelation 20, after 1,000 years, he's loosed for a little season.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
One more quick battle, and then he's cast into hell, and this is called the Great White Throne Judgment. The Great White Throne Judgment. That's at 5E. Okay? So I think I really poured a lot into that book, and thousands of hours. I really think that would be. And the more I read now since I wrote that book, the more convinced I am that is the right sequence. That's what the Christians have always taught, and it's just, I'm sorry I missed it, but I got it now. It's correct. Okay? You got more questions? You need me to call back?
Yes, sir. We do have more questions. I was able to organize some more, and I found that chart you're referring to. It's on page 246 of your book. So I will try to get that picture out. That chart that you have. Everything's fallen into place now that I have the chart in front of me.
Okay. Yeah, just show that up on screen for both.
Yeah, we lost him. Okay, he's going to call back. And folks, I do need some more Bible questions. I will try to show that chart, but it's there's some technical difficulties because it's vertical, and when I do a YouTube video, I need it to be horizontal. Not only that, but the quality of the chart is not easily transferable to a YouTube video. I'll do the best that I can, but we'll just see. The best thing is to get a copy of his book, page 246.
Ken Hovind.
An inmate at the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. This call will be recorded and monitored. Your advance pay account balance is $101.34. For customer assistance, billing inquiries, or to block future calls, dial 1-877-650-4249. To hear the cost of this call, press 8. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. Do not use three-way or call waiting features during this call. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
All right, did I answer the original question, or did I get off track?
Well, I was just going to ask you that. The original question is, what are the times of the Gentiles, as referred to in Luke 21, 20 through 24? It says the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And as I'm looking at the chart, maybe, yep.
Yeah, let me answer that. I think that starts at 5C, when the Antichrist takes over the temple. For the next 2,300 days, the Gentiles are in charge of Jerusalem. So that's almost 7 years. Six and a half years, whatever.
Okay.
So the Gentiles run the temple. Jesus comes back at 5C and kicks Antichrist out. I have often wondered, Jesus said, they asked him, what sign are you going to show? And he said, destroy this temple and in 3 days build it up. And obviously he was talking about his body, because he died on the cross and 3 days later rose. But I'm wondering if that temple they're going to build, back in 4B on the chart, is going to actually literally be destroyed. And Jesus actually literally built another earthly temple in 3 days. I don't know. You can make the earth in microseconds, make a temple in 3 days.
Yep.
We'll see on that one. That's just a wild thought.
Well, very good. Yeah.
I think that's the times of the Gentiles. That's the almost 6.5 years when the Gentiles rule Jerusalem.
Very good. Okay. I can't imagine a more thorough answer than what you just gave for that question. And we have a chart and an entire book to support it. Thank you for sharing that. I'll try to put the chart up with your answer so people can follow along as you're mentioning 4A, 4B, 4C, 5E.
Okay. Hang on. Food just showed up here, brother.
Okay.
Let me stop and eat and call you back afterwards.
Sounds good, Pastor Hovind. We'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, after our chow and Bible study. Thank you, brother.
Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Pastor Hovind, and I will try to put the chart up with these videos. I'll do the best that I can. I do need more Bible questions. Rick, Connie Muna, all you guys, you're the guys who make this happen because I can't come up with Bible questions on my own that fast. And so you provide the material to ask him these questions. I think it's a blessing for him, right? Because it keeps his mind occupied as he's stuck in this cell with 43 other guys in like a dog cage, right? And it's a blessing for us to hear what he's got to say. But I can't come up with these Bible questions on my own. I need you guys, and you guys have really, really been helping out. We got like 5 days to go until his new trial. And I'm asking you guys to stick with me and send me some more Bible questions in the next 5 days. Thank you guys. God bless. Bye-bye.